Hey everybody, so I'm gonna take a break from doing like 3D printing and crafting terrain stuff. I decided to throw some money at the problem. I bought the Ruined Azyrite Temple and Plaza set, and it's the Warcry kind of terrain, Azyrite terrain. I don't really know. Like, it's very, very similar to the Warcry stuff. I'm a little bit late jumping on the Warcry bandwagon. You know, like I like skirmish games way more than army games. You know, like I like little squad-based games. So I was gonna pick up the Warcry starter box. It was on my list of stuff to grab, and then I found out that it's out of print, you know, and like I was looking online, and the people are selling like the terrain, just the terrain, for like $800, like pro painted, you know, but still like $800 just for the terrain. So I managed to get some, people piece them out. They'll either sell the terrain used, or like they'll sell like the boxes, they'll sell just the sprues, like the sprues separately and stuff, and like the book and whatever, just piece it out. And but I ended up getting some stuff, but it's like shipping here from Poland. So I did get this stuff though. I got the, you know, my Azyrite Temple and stuff, and I'm gonna paint it up, you know, like don't expect any Warcry battle reports or anything like that anytime soon. I'm you know, like I'm not going to go up against the big dogs, the 800-pound gorillas. Like, you know, speaking of gorillas, if you like to, you know, if you want to watch Warcry, Guerrilla Miniature Games, you know, they do a good job. Like obviously, like Mini Wargaming Studio, you know, there's some of the big guys like Sword and Steel. Personally, there's a couple of YouTubers that I've been watching that I think are really great for their Warcry content, and it's Loaded Dice and Red Rose Wargaming, and they have incredible production values. They have amazing production values, and they only have like, you know, 2,000, like 3,000 subscribers or something. So they deserve more views. They deserve more subscribers. I know I don't have that many, but they deserve more. So anyways, yeah, we'll get into the painting, and I do plan on doing some Frostgrave stuff, like battle reports and stuff with these. So I'm gonna use them for Frostgrave. I'm all about Frostgrave, but yeah, maybe we'll see some more Warcry stuff down the road. Could be. So yeah, I finished putting this stuff together. This is the Ruined Azyrite Temple and Chapel boxes of Age of Sigmar terrain stuff. This is basically, it's the same stuff as like what comes in the Warcry starter box, so it doesn't key together the way that you're kind of used to stuff like GW stuff keying together. Like these little platforms are just sitting on top of these guys. So I recommend getting a good plastic glue if you're gonna put together this stuff. Like these guys don't even really key together. They're just kind of in halves, and then you squeeze them together. They don't have like little nibbies, you know, that connect with like male and female parts. But the box, you know, the directions say to like glue stuff together. Basically, you could really kit bash, you know, these guys like crazy if you wanted to, because they're like pretty modular the way you can sort of mix and match them. Like it says to glue these guys down, but you can use them as half walls, or, you know, like kind of adjust how much cover people get, you know, if they're standing on top or whatever, and arrange them. So if I was going to do it over again, I would make all of these guys, these little toppers, half walls, and then if I want to make, set them on top of things, then I will. But so I used a spray paint. Hobby Lobby had a sale. They had a big sale on Krylon. So I just grabbed a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted to experiment with, and I got this spray paint that's like a Payne's Gray. If you know what a Payne's Gray is, it's like Payne's Gray is it's this color. It's like sort of like a black almost, but it's a dark gray that has some like blues and like a little bit of greens in it and stuff like that. It's a really nice undercoat for like if you're doing like stone stuff, or even like flesh tones. I'm kind of tempted. I really like this stuff. Kind of tempted to even try priming minis with it. So anyways, I did that. I spray painted these guys. If you're not accustomed to doing spray paint priming, just hold the can back like 6 to 10 inches from your whatever you're painting, and then spray it evenly over it. Don't get close, because the spray paint will glom up all of the detail, and you don't want that. But so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start airbrushing, and I have just all of the different like stone pieces here. So I'm gonna start airbrushing, and I'm going to mix up something that has a kind of slate tone to it, and but I want it to be kind of green. I have this idea in my mind of what I want to do with this stuff, and I want the stone to have a green tint to it. So I'm going to mix something up to airbrush with. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to mix up a kind of slatey gray. Sorry about all the noise in the background. The washing machine is over here, and so is the AC next to my studio. I wouldn't recommend buying this stuff, these Wicked colors. I don't think it's very good airbrush paint. It's too heavy. But this stuff, Vallejo model color, model air, it works really great in the airbrush. So I'm going to mix these together, and I'm going to get a kind of greenish gray, kind of a slate color. And I want it pretty runny, so it'll go to the airbrush okay. Even more green than that. Alright, so yeah, I'm going for like kind of a grown-up Castle Grayskull look. I don't expect everybody to get that reference. I'll put a picture up or something. But this is that's what that looks like at this stage. So it's not, it's not intense. It's you can still see all of the spray paint, which is, the spray paint is nice because it has that chalky finish. It's like non-gloss and stuff. But yeah, I want it to look like, you know, just a gentle greenish tint that's getting picked up by the light. And I'm gonna let everything get nice and bone dry. I do not just use like a hair dryer or something when I'm painting. Oh, I forgot a piece. I don't just use like a hair dryer or whatever. I will let everything get nice and bone dry, because I don't want to be working on something and have just peel up paint with my brush. So I would rather play safe than sorry, and I will let everything get nice and dry before I touch it anymore. Okay, stuff is nice and dry. I'm gonna start, before I do anything else, I'm gonna start doing some dry brushing with some pigments. So I'm just using some pan pastels. Yeah, funny, this pan pastels are just pigments in a pan. It sounds like a generic name, but it's actually a brand name. It's a brand of pastels. You can find them in like art supply stores, but they're same, you know, weathering pigments would do the same thing, same job. They don't behave exactly the same as a normal dry brush. They kind of settle in the cracks a little bit more. And oh geez, they are not dry. That is not dry. Yeah, I lied when I said I was going to let them get bone dry. I got impatient. Okay, I'm going to look for spots that are bone dry. I'm going to dry brush those spots. But yeah, I've got just some kind of natural earth tones. I've got a black, I've got a brown, gray, and then kind of a burnt umber, or not burnt umber, like a dark yellow ochre tone. And I'm just gonna kind of let those settle into the cracks like dirt would. And you can go pretty heavy-handed with this stuff, because basically when you seal it down, when you put like varnish on it, it's gonna dull them down a lot. They're gonna settle in the cracks, and it's just gonna maybe just kind of tint things a little bit. But I'm trying to you know, I want my lighter colors to be at the tops of the pieces, and then I want my darker colors to be towards the bottom. So I'm just going to go around and I'm going to dry brush all over these pigments. Kind of let them settle into the cracks and stuff. And I'm going to work dark to light. Light on top, dark on the bottom. Okay, so after doing all the pigments, you can see what that kind of looks like. And don't worry, you know, if it looks like stark, high key, high contrast at this point, because after I seal, you actually have to seal the pigments down or they'll come up. You know, it's just like they'll come up when you handle them. So you have to seal them with like some kind of a varnish, like a dull coat, like a lacquer or a varnish of some kind so that the pigments won't come up. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix up some, I'm going to use some heavy body acrylics. So this is unbleached titanium buff. It's titanium white, but it hasn't been bleached, so it's like the natural kind of buff color. And this is it's a really nice color for making like stone or skin tones and things like that, because it's natural. It just comes out of the ground. Like that's what colored titanium is when they dig it out of the ground. And I'm also going to mix in some Payne's Gray, just to have some of that original color, from my spray paint layer. A little bit, like almost 2-to-1, maybe a little bit more of the titanium buff than the Payne's Gray. And I'm going to use a big soft makeup brush. And I like to use makeup brushes, especially for like big terrain pieces like this. I like a big makeup brush. They just have really soft bristles, and it's kind of like dry brushing witchcraft, because it just does a superior job of dry brushing. So I'm going to start at the top. Whoops. That's okay. I'm going to start at the top and get some more off. I'll work my way down, sort of work in like little circles, so that I'm picking up all those raised edges from every direction. And since I want to be picking up the edges to create more contrast, to get more to make things pop out to the eye, I want to create more contrast. I'm going to be, again, I want it to be lighter on the top, because I want it to look like the sun is sort of picking up those raised edges. And I'm working in like circular motions to pick up everything on the tops of these pieces. But then when I get to the side, I'm going to be coming down at an angle like this, because I want it to pick up the tops of things so I'm coming down in this direction, so that it looks like I'm hitting it with natural light. Sort of like this. And I want that contrast. I want that high key contrast on there, because it's going to make things, especially like down here, I want the to pick up the lights and darks, so that they'll stand out, from like 3 feet away. We're looking down at it, because typically that's how we, look at our models, is like top down. But I want to create more contrast, make details pop out. Okay, so I lost some of the greens in there. I think I'm gonna do after I'm gonna do the wood now, but after that, okay, yeah, after that I'm gonna do the iron, the rusted iron stuff. But I think I'm gonna do an oil wash on this stuff with yeah, I'm gonna do an oil wash later to put some greens back in. But right now I'm using a little bit of game ink and model air. This is just a dark brown, and the dark brown, the model air is like not completely opaque. You know, it has a little bit of like transparency, and then the game ink, I'm gonna do about 50-50 game ink and model air to do just a wash over these, because basically I don't need it to be you know, opaque. I just need I just want to wash over the this to make it, you know, brown instead of like gray like my stones. So I'm just gonna put some wash on there, make sure I get it into the recesses. I'm gonna be careful to keep it off the stones. But I want this wood to look like very old and like bleached out, sun bleached. So I'm probably going to go over this again after with maybe like another dry brush or something, but for now I just want to get some brown tone. Okay, to do some rust stuff, I thought there was more of it. I thought there was, I guess I was thinking of the like the Warcry stuff. I thought that there was kind of more of these grates. It kind of messes up my plan to do the Castle Gray Skull thing, because that was going to be like the orange, and then this was going to be the green kind of stuff. So I'm gonna mix up a bunch of things. I've got some Vallejo Model Air Rust, some like Rust Surface Primer kind of color. It's a, you know, kind of a reddish, well, rust color. I've got some P3 Mealy Ochre, some P3 Deathless Metal, some Citadel bulk gunmetal, and some game ink, red game ink, and I'm just gonna go around and kind of just do rust effects for a while. Go ahead and set up my palette. And I'm not diluting these, I'm just using them straight out of the pot, because I want, you know, opaque color. So I am going to kind of focus the rusty, you know, parts into places where I want it to kind of collect in the corners, and then I'm going to be sort of blending, like, you know, metallic highlights into like other areas where it's not quite going to be so weathered. And I'm just going to do this by hand. I'm not going to use any tricks like dry brushing or anything. I'm just going to go around and, you know, kind of wet blend like with opaque colors. Just paint in some rust. And it's okay if, you know, the paint gets contaminated by metallic flakes. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of mix this stuff together as I go. But I don't want it to look all the same color. So I'm gonna blend in other colors too. Alright, I just went around and kind of blended everything, you know, to get a nice rusty iron look. I had a little mishap with the yellow. Luckily didn't get anything on the model. Butterfingers didn't get anything on the model. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dry brush the wood a little bit. And I'm going to use some of this. This is just a really old dried up Citadel paint, but it's kind of the right kind of shade. So I'm going to use this to dry brush with, and I think I'm actually going to use a flat to do this. And just come this way against the grain. Yeah. And I'm gonna seal everything, seal down all the pigments, seal down the paint job, you know, protect it from Cheeto dust and the like. And after that, I'm gonna do an oil wash on it, and I'm gonna try and put some of those greens back in to make it look more like Castle Grayskull. What I was envisioning in my mind was that I would have like rusty, you know, rusty metal everywhere that would be that kind of weird like orange color, and then all my stones would be the green. So I wanted to have like a grown-up looking sort of Castle Grayskull theme going, but there's not really enough like rusty metal to go around. But I'm going to put some greens back in there. Don't use your good brushes for dry brushing. This is a crapped out, like craft brush, a flat craft brush. All right. So, happy with the dry brushing, all looks good. So I'm going to take it outside and I'm going to use a rattle can. I like Tester's Dull Coat Lacquer. This stuff, you know, you can just keep spraying more of it on, and then it like stays clear and stuff. It's not going to frost. Because it's lacquer, you can just, you know, keep putting more and more on. But I'm going to protect all of the paint job, you know, so it won't like chip off and stuff. Protect it from being handled. And also I want to protect it so that when I do the oil wash, it's not going to melt you know, the paint job. So yeah, I'm gonna take it outside and I'm gonna give these guys 2 coats of lacquer. Alright, so now that everything is sealed down, I did make sure and let everything get nice and bone dry. This stuff, you know, the dull coat lacquer, testers used to make an actual dull coat that had like a flat additive agent in it, that if you had some gloss in it, it would knock the gloss out of it. But this stuff, you know, it's like, it dries nice and matte and clear. Just make sure that you let it dry if you're putting multiple coats on. Don't like put 1 coat on and then spray it again and douse it, because you can get frosting. I've never had that issue with this actual brand, but I know with other types of matte varnish that can happen if you need to let it get bone dry in between your coats. So anyways, there's all kinds of stuff with oil paints that you can do. I'm an oil painter, like my fine art, that's what I do, is I do oil painting. There is like all kinds of mediums and stuff that you can mix with your oil paints. Like this stuff, Neo Miguel, it's a recreation of like a what is it called? It's basically like a boiled lead and oil concoction that people used to use in like the Middle Ages or whatever to paint with, and it's like a heavy body. It adds body so that if you want to do like some rust effects or something, and then like build up some, you know, some body with the oil paint, it'll dry quicker too, and like this stuff it's cool. And then we have, you know, liquid, same thing, it's a little bit heavier body, but you can mix this, you know, with your oil paints, and it's a medium, you know, like this will thin out the actual paint and make it a consistency. We've got matte varnish. You can varnish your stuff, you know, with oil paint varnish and really control, you know, to brush it on, and it takes a longer time to dry, so you can really control how it dries. But what we're gonna use is odorless mineral spirits, just to make a really thin wash. And Gamsol is just Gamblin. I like Winsor Newton and Gamblin, their oil paints. Gamsol is just paint thinner. You know, it's marketing. Odorless mineral spirits, it smells a lot less. I mean, it's thinner. It's paint thinner, so it stinks. But this stuff doesn't smell. And then what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a few different oil paints. Yeah, I've said this before in my other videos. When I break these out, don't buy these. These are total garbage. Water mixable oil colors. I had to buy them for a class in art school because the teacher was supposedly allergic to oil paint. I think that she just didn't want to have to smell, you know, oil paints in her classroom, because there was a lot of us painting and it was like warm and stuffy in there. But I'm going to use them up because this is for terrain, and you know, it's the don't need to use good oil paints to do terrain stuff with. So I've got a few colors. I've got an ivory black, which is just a nice like lamp black. It's a jet black, burnt umber, yellow ochre, pretty self-explanatory, olive green. And then I'm just going to mix up some different colors, and mostly I think I mostly want to use this green, but I want these other ones in case I feel like using them. Okay, so I'm just going to add some mineral spirits to all these guys. Just to make a nice thin wash. And then we're going to do some like streaking grime kind of stuff. You know, again, don't use your good brushes for this, or use your, if you have oil painting brushes, use your oil painting brushes. Like oil painting brushes are, this is an actual oil paint brush. This is like, it's hog's hair. So it's very tough and stiff, and it stands up to a lot more abuse than like your, you know, nice like mini painting brushes. But what I'm gonna do is, I'll get a small guy. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of like let this stuff drip on here. You can see how the dull coat like really knocked down the pigments. Like the pigments want to settle in the cracks after you hit them with the dull coat. But I'm just gonna let this stuff kind of do the same thing, like sort of settle in the recesses to kind of look like dirt and grime, you know? But you know, I want it nice and thin. I want it to just sort of drain, to just sort of drip on there and collect in places, and then what I can do is let it dry even. I mean, it's very, oil paint takes a very long time to dry, so you can really control how it dries. Like I can just kind of dab it off with like a paper towel, or you know, take like a Q-tip. You can kind of, you know, take some mineral spirits and like dab it off the areas where I don't want it, and place it in areas where I do want it. And also, I'm gonna try and like sort of cover up some of my boo-boos with this too. Like if I have a spot that the dry brush, you know, like where it looks a little cheesy, then I'm just gonna kind of cover that up, and it will cover up my mistakes, like make the dry brush look a little smoother and stuff. Yeah, and then I can just kind of dab it off on areas where I don't want it. And you can like wet your, take a Q-tip or something and then put some mineral spirits on it, like after it's dry, and then go around and wipe stuff off. I don't feel like you really need to do that though, just while it's still kind of drying, because it takes a while to dry. Just go around and kind of dab it off on the places where you don't want it. That's really all you need to do. Alright, yeah, that's the finished paint job. And with the oil paints, you know, you can go back over them. You can go back over them with acrylics, and you can varnish them and go back over that, and you know, multiple coats of varnish and oil paints and acrylics, and mix them together, just as long as they're not too thick. The layers of oil paint, if they're really thick, if you try and paint on top of it with acrylic, it'll crack. The binder won't settle on top of the oily finish. But yeah, I really like this stuff. You know, it looks awesome. I'm definitely going to see a lot of use in my games for whatever it is. You know, Frostgrave, D&D, Warcry, whatever I'm playing. If you liked the video, you know, consider dropping a like or subscribing. Welcome to all my new subscribers. It's been really cool to see my channel grow a lot in the last few months or whatever. Yeah, you know, it just means that you might see me in your feed besides like influencer drama, you know, cat videos, people fighting in McDonald's, all that good stuff that YouTube likes to ram down people's throats. But yeah, take care of yourselves until the next time I see you.